just like you said, we roll. We got several projects going, that are rental properties and stuff like that. Meg, she does what she does with the horses, and
I manage his property.
And she manages all the properties rentals. Now. She does a lot better at it, and she don't get as mad as quick as I do. So she never got arrested for that yet. Yeah.
Not yet, at least.
Oh, me and you share something in common.
What's that, Dee?
Besides a lot of things, but one thing is speeding tickets. Golly.
I do hold at last night I held the record for the oldest man, as well as many times of losing my driver's license anybody in the state of Tennessee.
I had to hire a driver.
I did too. Don't you remember that time me and you raced down with our drivers? I had that Mexican, and he kept saying, no sir, no sir. I said it was either that or I'll get you.
We were both being driven by people.
Exactly.
We ran up to the intersection. We were both driven by people.
Yeah.
But literally, and half the time I was not even speeding.
I know that.
Not when I go to Calhoun, I stop the car, get out, walk around the car, get back in it, so they won't say I rode through the parking lot.
Oh yeah, I know. Hey, I can't tell you how many times I've been arrested. Never committed a crime in my life.
No,
never.
Not that you're not that guy.
Yeah, and oh yeah, they've got me for anything coming and going. Yeah.
But I hadn't gotten one in a long time.
Bless your heart.
How about you? Are you still?
Nor are you a speeding ticket.
No, I've got that. I've got drunk. I've got drunk and disorderly a couple times in the last 3 or 4 months, and but she did too. She did too. She got arrested
public
too.
Intoxication.
Yeah.
But that was it went to the grand jury and they found no bill.
Yeah. There's no love lost between me and the judicial system. Let's put it that way. I think it's an archaic system.
Yeah.
People like you and I should replace with the feudal system, as in Europe. The people who have the power and the money, they develop their own towns. They guard their own towns. They make their own laws. Because all the legal system now, I feel, is a money-making gimmick. A friend of mine, one of my best friends, Judge Sheridan Randolph, said they set up totally for one thing, which is called the circle of poverty. Once you get in, unless you're a rich man, unless you get into it, once, it has the ability to destroy you. Many times you'll lose your job. Then before you know it, a good, honest, decent man that got stopped for drinking 2 beers is now robbing a liquor store.
All because they lowered the level.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Dee, and I must say, I think it's guilt by association. I'll say, you didn't even ask for my license. They say, we know who you are. We know who you're with.
Oh, yeah.
God. And I was joking with her when she came here, and I said, how long have you ever served? And she just laughed like she never even had the concept of being arrested in her past life.
Whenever you read a story in the newspaper or see something on television about somebody getting arrested, you naturally assume they're guilty. Unless the story's about you or someone you love, then you'll think differently. And you'll want a lawyer who will defend you. My name's Scott Canavis. If you or someone you love has been charged with a crime, call me. I'll return your phone calls, I'll work on your case, and I will defend you.
And I'm real proud of Meg. She's a doctor from Johns Hopkins University, as well as Oxford, and studied in Oxford and England.
Now, is it true that was in the Mensa?
She's a member of Mensa.
Member of Mensa.
Most days, Steve would agree that I seem more denser than Mensa.
Yeah, no, she is.
What is that? You have to be, an IQ of 140 or 130 or what
140.
is 140? Is IQ, do you think it's the ability to focus in? Or what do they call that? The ability to focus or aperture? What's the...
Well, it's mostly problem solving. It's not, although interestingly, I got into Mensa based on my SAT scores, which is pretty much, aside from the math part, reading comprehension, memorization. So, but it's mostly, I think, intelligence being the ability to prosper in whatever environment you find yourself. So I think that when they do the actual like genius test that Mensa does, it's mostly problem solving and deduction, reasoning.
Is reasoning, deduction is a real art, isn't it? So now we know this is, like I was talking to a guy earlier today, I said, okay, there's 4 options, and we know this one can't happen. We know this one probably can't happen, so it leaves 2, and I'd rather do this one. So is that, that's problem solving. Now, that doesn't mean that this one couldn't happen. It might could happen.
Right.
It's just saying we're just reasonably saying to take that one off the equation. Are you from Alabama?
I am from Chicago.
I thought.
I grew up on the North Shore of Chicago. To the second daughter of wonderful parents, and
You ever see the house she used to have? It dwarfs mine.
And yours is a big one.
Yeah.
I grew up riding American saddlebreads, owning and showing champion American saddlebreads. That's how I first came to know this area. I was about probably 10 or 11 years old. I flew down with my mom and my trainer to check out a horse at Blythewood in Cleveland. And we went, toured the area. We ate at the Chattanooga Choo Choo. And I was smitten. I fell in love with this area. And who knew that years later I'd fall in love with Steve Morgan of Delano. the most brilliant and talented and amazing man I know.
He really
Until
is.
having met you, of course, Dee.
That's right. Well, he is. You remember when we first knew each other?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The Olympic Center, right?
Exactly. Olympic Center.
Was that Sahara Drive?
Yep.
You were
It
always.
was Harry's place. Sahara Drive.
What Sahara Drive? What's the guy
His name was Harry.
Yeah.
Big old Harry. Kind of
He was
strange dude.
really nice to me, though.
He was
was
really
so
nice.
nice to me.
Yeah, he
I
was
wasn't
a nice
but a,
guy.
I wasn't but a kid. But see, you were really just about 5 or 6 years older than me. I
Exactly.
just didn't.
64.
It just. But boy, there was a big following there, wasn't there?
Yep. Had Terrell Robertson and all the big boys.
You
were
remember
there.
a guy named Alford?
Yeah, Scott. He's a power lifter. He died here a while back.
See, he lived in my neighborhood over in West Eldridge Acres, and I thought he was a lot older, but he was just straight as an arrow, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. I used to go with Bradley, and I'd put him on my back, and I'd run bleacher laps all day long with him on my back. Of course, now we're walking sticks now. I got paid back for it. But Scott was a fine guy, but like I say, that Colton got him. I mean, stout as an ox. Colton got him. What about that?
Was he short?
Very short.
Like how short?
Oh gosh, I'd say he's 5'2". If that tall, he may have been 5'1". Big small fella.
Did he have any sisters, or I
do not
He
know.
lived in the neighborhood, but he was older than me. We didn't associate, but I remembered him.
I don't remember if he had any family members or not. He used to run around with that Jenkins boy, big old tall boy. They called him Moose.
Oh, Moose. Yeah,
Remember
I hadn't
Moose?
forgot about Moose.
Yeah.
He was big too, wasn't he?
He big. He went in. He'd won the Chattanooga Badman contest about 4 or 5 times in a row until he basically had to restructure the craniofacial aspect of his head.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
yeah.
Is saddlebreds different than walking horses, right?
Yes, but they're both gaited horses. So they are in the same sort of class of horses. And we used to have Tennessee walker horses and saddlebreds at the same shows. Now they're all separate, but we used to have Tennessee walkers at a lot of the saddlebred shows.
What would be the difference between a walker and a saddlebred?
Well, saddlebred, a 5-gaited horse has 5 gaits. Okay, so they walk, trot, canter, slow gait, and rack. And the slow gait and the rack are akin to what a walking horse does. instead of walking in opposition where the left front and the right hind go forward at the same time, they pace, so the right front and the right hind go forward at the same time. And when a saddlebred does that slowly, it's called the slow gait. And when they do it fast, only one foot touches the ground at a time, and that is the rack, and that's equivalent to the running walk, which the Tennessee walkers do. But Tennessee walkers rarely show, at anything but the walk and the running walk. And the saddlebreds, they show either at the walk, trot, and canter, or walk, trot, and canter, 3 gaits or 5 gaits.
How in the world do they teach a horse to do that?
You know what? They pretty much come out of the womb doing it.
Is that right?
Yes, indeed.
You're into exotic animals too, right?
Well, the most exotic animal we have right now is our bird. I was always into horses and, dogs and cats. When I was...
I know what you're thinking.
You're thinking of his...
Well,
Didn't she have a monkey at one time?
this one didn't.
This
That was a
did.
prior, okay.
That was the ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
But I used to run a rescue and sanctuary at my farm in the Midwest for abused and neglected horses, burros, mustangs, cats, dogs.
Greyhounds?
No, I didn't have any greyhounds. But I did, when after I finished med school, I did a residency in psychiatry. And during my last years of practice in psychiatry, I did a year-long apprenticeship in equine facilitated learning, where persons learned lessons about life and leadership, all done on the ground, no riding involved. And I decided to parlay that into equine assisted psychotherapy. And so I decided that was my next calling, and I took an early retirement from my psychiatry practice, and I did that at my farm in the Midwest, and then I started the sanctuary, and I used a lot of those, formerly abused and neglected horses to work free of charge with veterans with PTSD and other maladies, and it was really transformative work for them. And I did that again when I moved out to Colorado. I did it on a ranch in Colorado before meeting Steve and moving here. But I hope to restart that work here.
Well, doesn't Tri-State Therapeutic, they have that, right? Is that
They have therapeutic riding. So that involves riding the horse, and they do a great job with that. I spent a day out there, observing their lessons and all. And they have a lift
Brown, right?
with Sherry Brown.
Yeah.
They have a lift where they can take very severely handicapped persons and get them on the horse, and they do a great job at that. The equine facilitated work that I do is done on the ground. It doesn't involve riding the horse.
What is it about a horse that will calm a person down? Is there a sign?
It never calmed me down. I was afraid of them.
It always scared me.
Scared the crap out of me.
And they'd put blinders on them where they couldn't see, and they're not like a cat. A cat calms me down.
Well, horses as prey animals are very much in tune to your energy, your presence.
Now, when you say prey animal, it's one that's been.
They're
It gets eat.
They're not a predator.
They're not like a
They're not a predator.
Yeah.
They're a prey animal. So, as a result of that, they're very much in tune to your sort of presence, your energy. They really sense what you're about.
So they can sense danger. That's their only protection, maybe.
They can sense danger. They can sense calm. And so they will pick up on what you are feeling, and that's how the equine facilitated work is helpful to persons, because when you have a person interact with a horse, you can tell by the horse's response to them what kind of vibe the person is giving off, what kind of energy they're giving off, and that can give a lot of insight to the person. I had a lot of abused, neglected, animals that I worked with. I had a burro who had been used for a Mexican rodeo event called tripping, where they usually lease horses off a slaughter lot for the day, and then they make them run at speed, and then a cowboy on horseback or on the ground lassos their front legs so they trip and fall to the ground. So this young Mustang, we assume this is what happened to him because his legs are very badly broken and dislocated. They have to be able to walk onto the trailer in order to go to slaughter.
God,
So he was so injured that he couldn't walk back onto the trailer. So they left him in the desert to die. This is out in Arizona. So I adopted him, and you know, for years I had him, you know, took care of him, and it was great because he came to really be trusting and affectionate, and so a lot of the soldiers, the veterans I worked with, who had PTSD, learned a lot from him and saw that he was able to learn to trust again, and all. And it was very, you know, insightful for them to work with Logan was the Mustang's name. And then I had a burro that I also adopted at the same time, who was this Mustang's good friend, who had been used for roping practice for years. So they would make the burro run, and they'd rope him his back legs. And so his back legs were terribly deformed. And he also, you know, did the same kind of work with the veterans and really helped a lot of them come to be able to, you know, love and trust again.
boy, it's so cruel, isn't it? God.
Isn't it
Just
terrible?
say no to rodeo.
But what I'm thinking is there something, why is another animal not as calming as a horse? There's something that we don't know that horses do that calm people down.
Well, you know, dogs try to please you, all right? And a horse is not like that. You know, a horse doesn't jump higher in order to get a carrot, all right? So there's a different dynamic, you know, with a horse and a person. First of all, as you found, horses can be very intimidating. Something about their size and their majestic presence is awe-inspiring. And what we do is we do certain lessons working with the horse where we have the person, you know, try to make the horse, you know, trot around a round pen, you know, stop, reverse, and all. And you can tell how, by the horse's reaction to the person, what they're getting from the person, you know. And so, and that is interpreted by me or by the facilitator, you know, for the person to say, well, did you see when you did such and such, he did such and such. So I think that the dynamic is different with a horse than it is with a dog or a cat.
Will a horse want to make you feel better if they think you're not wanting to attack them?
Oh yeah, oh yes, oh yeah. They can be very, you know, present and consoling, and
So a horse could know what you're feeling more than a dog or a cat.
well, dogs and cats can as well, you know, to sense what you're feeling, but I would say a horse is more sensitive to it than a dog or a cat. The dog or a cat is thinking about how you're acting in relation to them, and the horse is not thinking about that. It's like the way that a dog or a cat is.
What about cats? Why do they ignore people?
Well, you know,
I mean, they won't answer to their name, right?
they will answer to their name.
I can call that cat out there. His name's Tip, and
Right.
he just ignores me like I'm not even here.
Well, most of the cats do know their names, whether they respond to them or whether they do something. You know, a lot of cat behavior versus dog behavior is based on cats are not pack animals, okay? There's no hierarchy. That's why you can't scold a cat. They have no idea what no means. That, you know, because they're not scolded, you know, as in a pecking order. You know, they're independent. It's not that they can't be affectionate and can't be affectionate with one another. My kitties are always grooming one another, but dogs, you know, have a pecking order, okay, in a pack, okay, and they're so just like wolves, and so they're accustomed to being reprimanded by other dogs and then by humans, and you know certain things are demanded of them as a pack animal. Cats, because they're not pack animals, don't respond to reprimand. That's a total foreign concept to
They
a
don't
cat.
even know what you're talking about.
They don't know.
They don't know, understand why you're whooping them.
They don't
Yeah.
know. I have no idea.
So there's no point in doing
No,
it.
no, no,
There's
yeah.
no point in doing it. They say the best thing to do if they're doing a behavior that you dislike is to ignore them or put them in a separate room for an hour or so, you know, to isolate them. But they
Solitary.
say you can't reprimand a cat and have them learn not to do a behavior.
Where'd you learn all this?
Well, having a lot of animals. I think I would have been a veterinarian had I not been a human doctor.
What kind of doctor are you?
I'm a psychiatrist. I went to Hopkins for med school, got my MD. Then I actually did a couple years of radiology before I married my ex-husband, my first husband. And then I took a hiatus from my residency in order to move out to San Francisco with him and travel with him. And during that time, when I wasn't practicing medicine, I started a couple of businesses. I started a promotional modeling agency and a radiological services business. And I did a lot of, you know, humanitarian fundraising work. And then when I divorced several years later, I went back and did a residency in my first love, which was psychiatry, which is sort of the antithesis of radiology, where you're in a dark room with no one to talk to. But, you know, psychiatry involved storytelling, and I, of course, as Steve had said, I studied British Lit between college and med school. I studied British Lit on scholarship at Exeter College, one of Oxford University's colleges in England, because I figured it was my last opportunity to study anything but the basic sciences. And so I studied British history, literature, and economics at Oxford. And then I went to med school. And when I decided to go back and do a residency in psychiatry involves storytelling, philosophy, in which I minored in pre-med. And so I loved psychiatry. And so I completed a residency at University of Chicago later after I divorced. And I had a private practice on the North Shore of Chicago for a long time. And then I joined a hospital practice in Wisconsin where my mom was living and her health was failing. And being the only physician in the family, I went up there and took a job there so I could be close and help out with mom.
So psychiatry is your
Psychiatry
trade.
is my specialty.
I believe I would have enjoyed psychiatry.
Yes.
But do you think I go to a counselor every month for workaholic. I'm a workaholic. I've been going for 15 years. And I wonder how much different, I wonder if a psychiatrist would do better than a psychologist on that. Maybe on that, I mean, there's no trauma, I'm just a workaholic.
Right. Not necessarily. You know, psychiatry now is mostly diagnosing and prescribing. And that's the nice thing about being an MD is, as a psychiatrist, we can prescribe. And so, to the extent that a lot of persons' situations, making them, you know, anxious or depressed, or their adult ADHD is untreated, and so they're failing at work and all. It's nice to have somebody who can prescribe for But I will tell you that I did a lot of psychotherapy when I was in private practice. I probably did half med management and half psychotherapy. But when I was in my hospital practice, they wanted us to strictly diagnose and prescribe. And so what I did is, and I would see 22 patients a day. And then what I would do is I had 22 therapists that worked with me, and I would refer each of my patients to a therapist as well.
Which is a
psychologist. A psychologist,
yeah.
right. I'd like to say, I'm going to give you a fish, but the psychologist is going to teach you to fish. Of course, if you come to me starving, you need the fish. You know what I mean? So, but I would refer my patients to a therapist to work with them as well. And so when I was in my previous practice, I was sort of, I could do both. I did a lot of course, prescribing, but I also did a lot of psychotherapy as a psychologist does. And so I was like, the Kelsey Grammer and Frasier. I was listening. And, but when I was joining the hospital practice, they really wanted us to strictly diagnose and prescribe. And as I said, I refer all those patients.
A psychologist would just give you some coping skills.
Right.
And a psychiatrist would balance
Give
your
you the
brain.
pills.
Yeah.
Right. And well, it's always nice to go to a psychiatrist to make sure that there's not something you could be on, that maybe maybe your symptoms are related to an anxiety disorder.
But how would they know unless they pulled your did a hormone panel or something like that? Or
they do. We do it. I mean, we sometimes run some blood tests to see if your depression is related to, say, hypothyroidism. But for the most part, we do it through the evaluation where you're talking to me and I'm asking you all the right questions so I can figure out what's wrong with you. We might do some testing, like to do ADHD testing and all.
Yeah.
But that's not involved blood tests. That's different kind of testing. So, it's just asking the right questions to figure out what's wrong. Are you suffering from a mood disorder, an anxiety disorder?
What do you do when somebody's describing their thoughts or their feelings, but they're not good at describing it? Does that make sense? I mean, somebody can
ask the right questions.
I mean, somebody could describe it. I'm feeling my stomach's upset. Another person, I'm feeling depressed. It's the same thing. They're just
exactly.
So you got to really figure out
ask the right
what in the world's going on.
Right.
And almost ignore their words in a weird way.
Indeed. And you're absolutely right. Some persons who are well-spoken can describe in great detail what they're thinking, what they're feeling. But, many of my patients were, when I was working for the hospital system, were indigent and not well educated, and so it's a matter of my asking the right questions.
Yeah.
And my giving them scenarios and asking
2 or 3 different ways, maybe.
Exactly. And also appealing back to them in order to make them amenable to taking the medication and all, appealing to them in a way that they would understand, and appreciate. There are multiple different types of, I think it's Graham's theory that there's multiple different types of intelligences. Intelligence being what enables one to flourish in whatever environment they're in. So there's intrapersonal intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, and so appealing to persons based on how you figure they learn best was important in practicing.
Boy, that's a complicated business, isn't it? Because you can't know if you're getting better, if you're making somebody better or not. It's not like you can test their blood and say, well, your iron's back to normal.
Right.
You just don't know.
Right, but it just asking them, are you feeling better? Or the things that they described that they were feeling that they didn't want to feel. or the things that they weren't feeling, they wanted to be feeling, I would make sure that that's how I asked it. And then when they came back, I'd say, okay, you said that you're feeling such and such, and is that gone? Or you said you're not feeling such and such, but would like to feel that. Are you feeling that now?
So you have notes, and when they come back, you remember
yes.
to ask them
Yes.
this and that.
Yes.
Well, if you had to have one book or one psychology type, would it be Nietzsche or Socrates?
No, I would say
Stoicism or what?
Well, I would say the most useful form of therapy, which has been shown to be as effective many times as the antidepressants, is cognitive behavioral therapy, which was developed by Beck. So I would say Beck's work would be prominent. I mean, that would be the thing that I would, in fact, there are, there are persons who've written about what makes one happy, all right? And they'll say that, being on antidepressants, if you're clinically depressed, is helpful. It sort of levels the playing field. It makes it such that you have as great a chance of being as happy as the next person, as content as the next person. All right, especially if your serotonin is depleted. But the other thing that they would say results in happiness is not necessarily, certainly wealth or good health. They'll say, the practices of persons who are happy, describe themselves as happy, are mindfulness, being present in the moment, and cognitive behavioral therapy. And cognitive behavioral therapy is a therapy by which you help the person, it's a manualized therapy. You help the person discover what their cognitive distortions are. Catastrophizing, black and white thinking, and there's a whole list of, and then what you do is you teach the person to, change the way they're thinking, and that, as a result, changes the way you feel. So it's not a situation, but how we think about it that then determines our mood state. All right, so like a very sophomoric example would be, excuse me.
Say it's sort of like along the lines when you hammer everything's a nail.
Yes, and so
if you're
you hear a crash in the house, you hear a crash, and there are persons, and then you haven't figured out what it is yet, and you're alone in the house, and so some people think, somebody is breaking in and they're going to kill me, but it could just be that the wind blew over a lamp, or the cat or from an open window, or the cat crashed into something. So until you figure out what the actual situation is, you can, but thinking the first way makes one terribly anxious, and so what we do is we teach persons to answer a whole series of questions, and I boil it down to, okay, what's the situation? How do you feel about it? All right, now, what's the best case scenario? All right, what's the worst case scenario? What's the most likely scenario? And this is a good one. What would I tell a friend in this situation? All right, so and if you are really diligent about going through and there's a whole list of questions, but going through that process in your mind, you can keep yourself from these cognitive distortions like catastrophizing or black and white thinking, and then you put yourself in a much better mood state. You're not as depressed. You're not as anxious. You're not as, terrified. So cognitive behavioral therapy, Beck's, which is Beck's theory, is, I would say, the most is today's society the most important therapy.
Maybe
Most important therapy.
he teaches you to reframe the possibilities of what it could be. But
Yes.
boy, that's hard to do, isn't it?
Well, you know what? If you do it repeatedly, it's like with anything. If you make it a habit, it puts you just in a much better place. It's so important that it's the only therapy that we have to be licensed. Like the Beck Institute examines tapes of our doing this with patients, audio tapes and videotapes, and the Beck Institute has to pass us essentially as being qualified to do this therapy. I mean, there are so many different therapies.
Tons.
Maslowian, Freudian psychoanalysis, interpersonal, family therapies. This is the only therapy during psychiatry residency that we have to be licensed in. It's that important. It's that, it is that transformative.
Have you ever heard Jelly Roll, that new singer?
Yes.
Yeah. You know that song he's got now that says, everything's not all right, but everything's going to be okay?
Yes.
If you could say that to yourself every hour,
Yes.
would you start to believe it?
Yes.
And then would it be okay?
Yes.
Because-
They actually had an
because-
article about
If
it
I might
in the Wall Street
interject.
Yeah,
Journal today
interject.
about that
Okay,
song.
the only
Yeah.
way that the verse that you said
Yeah.
would work if you were your own God, if you were capable of making it okay, not just sitting back and humming happily, as you dive over a cliff
But don't you
in your
think
car.
that belief in God
Yeah, that's what I'm
also
gonna say.
enables you to
Yeah,
say that?
I'm going to go on the record right now and say I would say 85% of any emotional issues in America today are a result of a lack of relationship with Christ. And I know that from first. I mean, because there ain't nobody nuttier than I am that's free. You know what I mean? And it worked for me. You know what I mean? It really, really did.
You underestimate your intelligence. I can tell you that right
Oh,
now.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I guarantee you.
Yeah. But
But that was leading to my next question. And I think that's what you're saying. Can you change the outcome, even though the outcome is, can you change not the outcome, but maybe even how you perceive the outcome
That's it.
with
It's
that
your
practice?
perception of it. It's not
Because-
the situation, but how you perceive it that induces a mood state. So if you change your perception of it, you change your mood state.
So then,
yeah,
you know what I'm
that is
saying?
very good, because they said that a lot of the things that people catastrophize about, that only like 4% of them ever came true. So therefore, it is in the perception. Because I'm like you probably a lot of times. I mean, if I hear something in a house, I think we're sinking into a freaking sinkhole. The foundation's busted. I'm horrible at that, aren't I?
Yes.
I mean, if I hear a tiny little sound or somebody just touches me, I'm out of the chair, just like somebody had stuck me with a knife.
Now, what
I've always been
causes
way.
that? Why does that happen with him and not me?
Well,
Now, if I text somebody and they don't text me right back, I go down a rabbit hole.
I do too.
I mean, I'm plumb down a rabbit hole.
right.
But if I text them 4 times, I'm ready to go to their house and kill them.
And they hadn't even got the message.
Exactly.
But
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know that.
That's
You
right.
can't hardly convince me. Even if they tell me, I didn't get your message.
You're
I'm
thinking
still
you
thinking
lying,
you're
know
lying-
what?
you're
Well,
lying.
I know that. Yeah, I'm the same way. She can tell you. I'm just on just ragged edge all the time. Okay.
Now, is that from us being in business? Or
No,
were we born that
You're
way?
born that way because my ex-wife made me promise. She said, "Steve, you've worked your life away. You've not been with the kids, anything." She said, "I want you to sell all your companies by the time you're 40, or I'm going to leave you." So I did. I mean, I got a really good deal on some of the companies. I sold them all, but it didn't change me a lick. I was just, and she can tell you, the second we wake up every day, what do you want to do today? Where are we going to go? Hey, you want to go to Gallenberg? that I try to fill the same time that I'm not working anymore with going places, doing things. Just, it's got to fill that time. It's got to fill that void. It's not really a void. It's, life is short. I want to get as much out of it. I want to squeeze as much out of that orange as I can squeeze out of that
Steve
orange.
suffers from FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Oh yeah, fear of missing out. Oh yeah, yeah. You know, we'll go to you know, anywhere and everywhere just to see. I drug her to every fireworks known to man. I've drug her to every. Hey, Christmas. By the time Christmas was over, she said,
contentment with complacency. Since you're complacent, I said, no, I'm ambitious. You know, I said I you know, am creative. I said, but I can also be content. And Steve,
We can't be content. We just can't do it.
No.
the second I'm content, I
tried.
figure I'm missing something else
I've
out.
tried.
Yeah. My theory was, you've always heard the old saying, hey, you know, you got to slow down and smell the roses. Well, my theory is, you speed up, you get to smell more of the devils. You know?
And one of my theories is maybe these are our roses.
What?
Maybe these are our roses.
Yeah.
Just working.
Right. Yeah. And everybody needs to have something they do. You ask a lot of these wealthier men that have retired and stuff like that, they'll go right back into something else. They don't have to. They don't have to think about it. But there's something about the feeling of productivity that if you're worth a darn, you'll always have the need to be productive. Now, 99% of people out there that I deal with, you know, they lay up all day, they get up at 11 o'clock, drunk, with they're just messes of people. They have no ambition in them whatsoever. You know, I learned a long time ago, a man that'll work, he'll work for $5. Now, he may not work long for $5, but he'll work for $5. Just as good as you give somebody $50 an hour. You know, the working man is in him. It's in him to work.
You believe that?
She'll give anything to you. She'll go out of her way to give bums money. You know, and I say, I said, give me my business card. I'll give you my job.
But many,
And you've seen the same thing, haven't you?
Oh yeah,
You've probably
absolutely.
done the
I'm
same
more
thing.
like you.
But if you, many persons who are homeless suffer from mental illness.
That's right.
All right, and it's not
Absolutely,
they
absolutely.
can't. And you know what? Our deinstitutionalizing everyone, which now people are discussing again because that happened really during Carter's administration.
Yeah.
Was really not the best idea.
No.
That, what we thought is that persons would come to community mental health centers. Okay, they wouldn't be institutions, but what happened was we put everybody in the community, and they couldn't get to their appointments at the community mental health center, which might be a bus ride away. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't work. I'm not saying that some institutions were overly restrictive and all, but
that's what caused the majority of homelessness today, I think.
Homelessness is.
I think so.
It is. It's deinstitutionalized.
That's when it started. More.
Yes.
We never saw that around Cleveland before.
No.
We had the one.
And so these persons
want to live out in a tent.
Right.
You're a nut. You're a nut.
So these persons, are unable to hold a job. All right. And so that's why, yes, I do have a lot of empathy for the homeless. Especially as a psychiatrist, because I know that not all of them, but many of them are mentally ill. So.
But here's my thing: you're talking about, and this is a long thing, but you're talking about cognitive
Behavior
bias,
yeah,
and cognitive dissonance causes you to see things a certain way. Mm-hmm. All right, now, let's say you could change that cognitive dissonance if you knew you had it, because we don't know we've got it. Whether I'm seeing things one way or another, I don't know if I am, because that's the definition of it. I don't know I'm doing it.
You could put him in shock therapy, couldn't you? That'd work. I would totally reset the brain.
Well, they tried that. I mean, there was a theory, wasn't it?
Well, no,
my
and you know what?
daddy had.
Listen, I used to
Did it
do
help
a lot
him?
of. I used to do a lot of ECT, and on persons who are severely depressed and who failed, a bunch of antidepressants, oral antidepressants. Works like a charm.
What did you say?
ECT, electric shock treatments, electroconvulsive therapy. And it's not barbaric anymore whatsoever. You know, the person's completely anesthetized. You can barely see except from their foot.
So that'll rewire the brain?
What it does is it causes a huge release of all the neurotransmitters, the serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, and that it resets the brain such that persons are less depressed.
All right, so that goes back to how they're seeing it.
No, that's a totally different thing than the cognitive behavioral therapy. I mean, as far as, you know, they still think the same way. You still need to have the person, but the thing is, most persons who are severely depressed are receptive to therapy, all right? They can't sit there and listen to you telling them, well, you know, from your answers here, it appears that these are the cognitive distortions that you're most often using, da da da. What we're talking about is, I'm talking about someone who's severely depressed, you know, catatonic, suicidal, getting to a point where they are functional and can be receptive to therapy. That's what the ECT would do.
But what I'm saying is, if you're looking at it wrong, is it possible? Because I know some people that look at things totally different all the time, and they just keep looking at it different. Are they actually changing their reality? That's what I'm wondering. Because, for instance, let's say I'm going to make something up. They're going to come and invade Cleveland tomorrow, and they don't show up. And I say, well, they didn't show up because they didn't have chainsaws. They needed chainsaws to cut the trees down. They'll be here tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and they say, well, they've run out of gas. It wasn't a good day, and it was Sunday, and they didn't want to start. Some people seem to just keep changing these stories, and I'm just wondering if they change their reality completely. Does that make sense, or am I crazy?
Yeah, but whoever's acting that way is pretty much crazy.
Well,
but I mean, can you change if you can change who's at the door or if somebody knocks something over, either way, maybe the worst case scenario was somebody's here to shoot me, but no, they weren't. They had the wrong person.
Right.
And they just keep going with this lie to where they almost change their reality.
Well, if that works to put them in a better mood state, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying that one should like fantasize or, you know, be delusional about something. I'm just saying that, you know, you can be practical about something and go through this, you know, what's the best case scenario, what's the worst case scenario? Would I survive the worst case scenario? All right, what's the most likely outcome? When you're feeling very anxious or depressed about something, you'd be shocked when you go through those questions and you answer those questions, how differently you feel.
But let's go back to our texting. Let's say I text somebody, they don't text me back. You text them 3 times, they don't text back. We're convinced they're mad at us. All right, now they finally text us and they say, oh, I was upset at you about this. One person would say, well, they're really upset. They're never going to talk to me again, and I really screwed up, and they're going to text it. They're going to tell everybody. But another person might say, oh, they were just upset, and they probably hadn't eaten lunch, and everything's fine.
Exactly.
Now we really don't know what happened.
No. Okay, well, so go through like my abbreviated questions. Okay, so somebody, you don't get a text back. Okay, what's the best case scenario? The best case scenario would be that
I forgot to hit send.
Well,
because that's happened.
Right.
It's always best to assume the worst. Okay.
No,
when she
that's
first
not
come
true.
here, I do the same thing, and And I'd look at her and I said, I said, that person's going to move out of that house. No, Steve, they might not be awake yet or something like that. She'd always try to say, hey, and they moved out of the house.
All right.
Okay.
Sometimes I have,
but
the thing is this, use that example.
Use that.
What's the best case scenario is they're going to continue to rent from us. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Worst case scenario, you're right, and they move out, or or they just stop paying rent and we have to evict them. That would be the worst case. Would we survive the worst case scenario?
Well, see, there's where I have a problem.
Wait a second.
I assume that each and everything that does not go my way is beginning a cascade of failure.
Okay.
Today I'm sitting up in my big mansion. 2 days later, I'm down here on Skid Row, trying to get enough money to get a cup of
You're
coffee.
going past the sale.
The past is prelude, okay?
And I
think
do
about
this.
all the things that but think about it. Think how many persons have moved out or whom we've had to
thousands.
And you know what? Did
Yeah.
we survive it? Yes. And you know what?
But not this time, Mo.
But we always. Why would this be different? Then we always get somebody else to move in.
Well, I guess it's because
And a lot of times we raise the rent and we get more rent.
It's probably how I was raised. God bless my mama. If I sit
But
down for
that's
10 minutes at the
catastrophizing.
house doing something, she said, well, I guess it must be nice to get to sit down. I guess you'll lose. She said you'll probably lose your
My
business.
mother used to say, "You're not
probably
going to be
lose your
worth a dime
business."
if you don't help me vacuum." My mother used to say.
Well,
that.
even when I was a man, she said, "Well, you're going to lose your business." Or if I said, "Well, Mama, I'm going to take Susie Q out tonight."
Now that's cognitive bias, right?
Oh, yes. And
That's
it's a
creative
kind of distortion. It's a kind of distortion.
Now, and then everything else is
Catastrophizing.
cognitive dissonance. It's building that, showing that support
Right.
for that thought.
Right. And so, and those are what we call cognitive distortion.
Now, whichever one happened, does it matter? Does it even matter? I just believe, I'm just getting real close to believing that the way we look at it, it either changes the reality or it changes the way we see it, and I'm not sure that it matters.
All right.
Well, I have gotten much better over the years because I have learned, or at least a portion of it, just to give it to God. Just give it to God, and try not to keep looking back in what you gave to God, trying to worry about it. However, I also have this other shortcoming to back that one up is it's not God's fault. You're stupid. You can still bypass all that to being stupid, Yeah.
So, am I making sense? At least not am I right or wrong, but am I making sense that can you keep looking at it different to where you change the perception so much that you change the reality in your mind, and that's good enough?
Yeah, well, by changing the way you think about it, you can change the way you feel. All right, so you could be a lot less anxious, a lot less down, have a lot less.
So you don't
temperature.
subscribe to the fact that we can actually change the outcome, like in the simulation theory or nothing like.
No,
so
I'm not saying you can change the outcome. I'm saying that you can change the way you think about the situation. And then you can change your mood state as a result.
See, I kind of think maybe we can change even what's going to happen. I think those minute things can actually change. For instance, say if somebody buys a certain car, and the next 3 or 4 weeks, I keep seeing that car everywhere. Am I seeing that car more? Or is my brain just more in tune to that car? Or is there more cars? Because if it's in more tune to seeing more of that car, then maybe if I start looking for luck, I'll see more luck. And I'll see more opportunities if I'm looking for opportunities. And if I'm looking for the negative, maybe I'll see more negative and I'll attract more negative. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. I think that...
But not in reality, it doesn't.
Well... I think that,
maybe it is.
well...
You can't attract or repel nothing.
No, but you can get rid of a lot of negative energy and as a result of that, be in a better place to be receptive to good.
Exactly,
I'm
exactly.
not talking about magical thinking. I'm not talking about.
But I don't know, and
this.
maybe it is magical thinking, but I just think what you said there is exactly what I'm trying to say, and I can't articulate it.
I think that you can be. I think that you can probably be more receptive to good and luck and if you are able to rid yourself of a lot of the obsessing and negativity and criticizing.
What she's trying to say, you smile more, you'll get more chicks.
That's right, right. And if you don't, you won't.
Yeah.
So when you said a few minutes ago, you can't attract or repel nothing, you can.
No, if you're talking in a psychological aspect or metaphysical aspect, no, you can't attract or repel. You can, one thing will result in this thing. In other words, if you drink every day and drive the car, you very well have a wreck one of these days. Mm-hmm. That's just a given. You don't take a shower.
But if you,
don't want to be around
it's also, you can find good. In raising children, in training dogs, even. What we always tell persons is reward the good behaviors, and you will get more good behaviors. You'll elicit the good behaviors. Ignore the bad behaviors, and they will get extinguished. Don't reprimand or don't punish the bad behaviors. But in recognizing good, you foster it, and the dog or the child does more of the good behaviors because you are acknowledging those.
And you're attracting
Do you also believe that exactly what you said could be applied to oneself, to reward oneself? Okay, let's say workaholic. Okay, well, say, I really want to do this. I just need to get this done. But, if I go ahead and take off at 4 today and don't answer another phone call, then I'm going to let myself go to my favorite restaurant or bordello or wherever it is that you go, and or get me a swig of liquor, something that makes me happy because of that. Mm-hmm. See, that's the same thing as training a dog.
So, but isn't that metaphysical?
No, it's not metaphysical. You're not wishing, the most beautiful woman in the world to come through that door while you're sitting here. Ain't gonna happen.
No, it's actually more basic, like opposite conditioning.
That's metaphysical.
You're right.
Can it not be? I think maybe it can be metaphysical. I think that certain things that you think about, you attract that energy, and I think that is metaphysical.
And what do you feel the basis of that? Their energy is.
I don't know that, but I do think that it exists. It's like tuning the radio to a station. You pick up that station. So you tune your mind to seek luck and to seek whatever. And whether you start noticing it more, or maybe whether you're changing your.
I think what you need to do is you need to incorporate it into your own life. You need to be whatever manifestation you want to experience. So if you want to have more love and affection for persons, be more loving and affectionate. I don't think it's just wishing it true. So they had that book a few years ago, The Gift, and they said, you know what, if you just I want this red bicycle. If you just think about it, it will manifest.
That's bullcrap. But here's one thing: the more Christmas cards you send out, the more Christmas cards you'll get back.
But what I'm saying is that not metaphysical?
That's not metaphysical.
No,
that's just
practical.
good old. It's like these, like these movie stars and John Kennedy and everybody. Oh, everybody's loving them, because they had charisma. Charisma, not metaphysical. It's a trained thing. It's the way they act, the way they project themselves, the energy behind the projection. It's a talent. It's just like a con man.
Well, let's go the opposite. Say let's say somebody that you don't want to be around.
used
Well, I
car
just
stuff.
think if you're still putting it out there, and it comes back to you, use a Christmas
People
card.
like
If you
to-
send
yeah.
Christmas cards, the more you send, the more you get back.
Well,
so
and nobody likes to be around a grumpy old man. Here's a grumpy old dude sitting at the bar. And here's this guy over here. You know, he's clean. He's nice. He's talking to everybody. He's glad-handed. It makes you feel good to be around the guy. You know what I mean?
You're gonna smack him on the back and say, "Hey,
There you go. He buys you a
Fred,
drink and you say,
hey,
he
Fred."
said, "No, your money ain't no good."
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you're gonna like people like that.
And
Is
also,
that not
you-
metaphysical?
No,
No, it's not.
Metaphysical is
social
when
treasure.
you want
It's-
that cup bar to
well-
go fetch coffee.
Okay,
for
well,
you.
what is that then?
What is what?
If you say you send out more Christmas cards, you get more.
That is simply they used to be called a rule of not diminished returns, but increasing returns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
And in the Bible it
And-
says to have friends, one must make oneself friendly.
Friendly, right.
Right.
It's just a matter of just
But-
social interaction.
All right, let's say-
For example, if somebody, persons are a lot less ready to criticize somebody who's complimentary towards them. So I,
Sure.
interact with someone,
There's
and
a
I compliment them on something. Well, they're a lot less likely to turn around and say something, snide or something motivated by jealousy, because that would diminish my comment to them, and to say it was coming from a person that they described as whatever, and so that's just a matter of social interaction. And
So maybe I'm using the word metaphysical wrong. What's your definition of metaphysical?
Metaphysical is basically magic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically
Telepathy or
Yes,
all that.
where they
Yeah.
where they bend the fork and stuff.
right,
That's
right.
all that, all that junk. Yeah.
But when I say metaphysical, I'm talking about the more you try, the luckier you get. That sort of thing.
Well, yeah, that's just
Well,
yeah.
I mean, Einstein
Hey,
said chance favors the prepared mind.
Right, right.
And
So what was that? That's not metaphysical,
Well,
right?
there's
No.
a famous baseball player one time that they asked you, well, why is your average so well? He said, I go to bat more.
Mm-hmm.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But that's not metaphysical
No.
in
No.
your mind.
Yeah.
What do you call that?
I just call that, the little train that could. You get up, you try, you get knocked down, you go back again. If and like I say, it works in every aspect of life. The more you try to get business, usually the more business you'll get. Yeah. And
If you ask 20 girls out for a date, one's going to say maybe.
well, there you go.
Or whatever.
Oh yeah. I used to have this thing in when I was getting contracts and stuff like that. I said every 5 places I visit, I'll get 1 contract. I mean, that's almost always the case. I mean, every now and then you didn't.
Sure.
Every
Yeah,
now
it's
and
a
then
law
you
of
got 2.
averages.
Sure.
But the average was always
Right.
1 out of 5.
So let's go back to, you said you 5 jobs, you'd get 1. I remember one day, let's just go, we worked out at the Olympic Center hard. Your chest was so big.
In the old days.
It was unbelievable. It was, his chest was out to here. I mean, you didn't even have to bench far because you're,
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
that helps. Yeah.
I mean, golly, it was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah. I stayed at that gym till that thing fell on my head. Do you remember the leg press there? You'd lay on the floor and had the leg press overhead. The bolts came out. The bolts came out, and I started to get away, and it hit me right across the nerve here, and my face is still a little bit paralyzed. If you look at it,
I split my pants on that. I was wearing the same pants. I had done that so much that I split my pants.
What about
But now, didn't they go over to where wholesale supply is there? Remember, he moved out of that.
Yes, he did.
And he had to go to that. Didn't you go there?
No, I don't think it did. I don't think.
So you had stopped when
Yeah.
the leg press fell on you.
Yeah. Then I went over there to
To
Fitness Factory.
Yeah, because I think we all joined the spa. Remember that? And then the spa closed down and our membership
Wait a minute. Yeah, the spa right there in front
Not the
of Wholesale
spa,
Supply
not the
Group.
spa. What's it called, the spa? That don't sound
Was
right.
that fancy place?
Yeah,
Fancy.
fancy.
He was right there in front of
Yeah.
Wholesale Supply Group
Yeah.
right there. Yeah, I even worked there for a while. I even remember what the first thing they taught me. You leave out 500 you leave off 500 calories a day, and in 7 days you burned off a pound because it's 3,500 calories. Yeah, 'cause I was an instructor.
Right.
I didn't like it very much. I just, you know.
But also, I
Did you ever
remember,
work out at Greeks?
never did.
Old Greek would be sitting there smoking with leather jackets and doing, he had to work for his shoulder holsters
Right,
to
right.
fall back, before you could bench press. Yeah.
That was back before they were taking stuff, wasn't it?
That's right when they started. Right when they
I didn't
started,
get into
yeah.
any of that. One
I
day,
didn't either.
now I remember one time
I'm deathly scared of a needle. Deathly.
is that right?
I won't fly either.
I don't mind either one of them. I just don't swim.
I swim and I really can't swim.
I
Dog
won't even-
paddle like the old fat dog, but that's about it.
I don't get in the water at all.
I don't
I
blame you
can't
there.
dance, swim, sing, or control my temper.
I can't dance.
I
either.
can't
Yeah,
do any of those
yeah.
four. I remember I saw you one time, hot summer day. I'm walking into the back door of the Bank of Cleveland. You're sweating, and you're doing what there?
I did interior plants, and I had the biggest interior plant company in the state of Tennessee.
So what gave you that idea?
I was what was his name? Remember the Bank of Cleveland? You remember Bank of Cleveland?
Yeah.
Okay. No, not Bank of Cleveland. Cleveland National on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I forgot what his name was. Yeah, the president of the bank had this little bitty round glass.
Fitzgerald? No,
What?
Fitzgerald.
I can't remember his name. He was tall, kind of red hair, little round glasses. And I was standing in line to get a check cashed one day. and
How
they-
old were you?
Oh, I'm probably about 14. And they had this built-in area right there, had a fountain in it. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I remember
Had two or
that.
three old dead plants right there. And I was just kind of looking at him while I was waiting in line. And he walked over to me. He said, "Them pitiful, ain't they?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, I said, "A bad plant's better than no plant at all." He said, I agree with you. He said, "I wish I could find somebody to put me some good in it." I said, "I'll do it." He said, "Have you done it much?" I said, "Oh, for years." I never done it before in my life. I headed to Kmart, bought the plants, put them in there, and started charging them monthly. And I was off of what plants I put in there for about $50. I did a contract with them, I think it was like 15 years.
But now, so when you were at the Olympic Center, you were doing that on this. Was that your main job?
Well, we had outside landscaping.
Because you was about. I was about 15. You'd been about 21.
Yep.
So you were doing that then?
We had that going. We had the landscape company going. We started the day at the Parthenon in Nashville and ended at the International Airport in Atlanta.
But I mean, you were just doing regular landscaping like you'd call.
Yeah, we're going to get outside stuff again, and then we were doing mowing yards and then doing interior plants.
How many people did you have at your highest point?
I had 24.
So how did you do all that?
Well, we had 24 divided in about four to five different crews, and which would vacillate between that. You never knew who was going to show up on
Yeah.
Monday morning. You
No.
know how that is, and that's pretty much it. We started before we even had cell phones. I had one of the first cell phones come to Cleveland, the big old babies in the bag.
The bag, yeah.
And back then, my light bill would be like my phone bill would be like $1,200 a month. Back when they charged you for every moment you used. And that's how we do it. My mama would take the calls into her land phone, okay? Then I would call her, "Mama, any messages?" "Yeah, here's the number of this guy called wanting, landscaper or this company called." Then I'd call them back, and so.
How many contracts did you have at the height?
At the height, 350 contracts. And that's why when I sold, when it got down to about 325 is when I sold it at 40.
Now, didn't you sell it at some incredible amount? I mean,
Yeah,
it was like
I made a lot, which was great because, I'd met with some national companies like Kim Lawn and stuff like that, and they would say, "Come down here, we're going to buy your lunch down here at the Marriott." Okay, like I'd never eat at the Marriott
Yeah.
before, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd sit there and they'd do this little number where they'd write and fold it over. "Well, we got a number here we think you're going to be very impressed by it." And I said, "But," I said, "I make more than this a month." I said, "I'd never considered that." I said, I pay more tax in a month than what you're offering me for the whole
But where were you operating out of?
basically out of my mama's house.
You're just on the shoestring?
We did not have any base of operations because that costs money. I'm a great believer in everything goes in that pocket, okay? Because there used to be a huge landscape company in Chattanooga, I don't know if you remember, called Peruso Landscape, and they had these beautiful black trucks with gold writing. You know, and if they was planting a tree, they'd have like 4 big trucks and all these dozer things. You know. And I was also there the day they sold them out at bankruptcy, and that scared me. So if I needed a piece of equipment, I'd run over to Bradley Reynolds and rent it. Take it back in 2 or 3 days. If we bought old F-150 pickup trucks, stripped down auto and iron. We'd go out at CC Card and buy them iron.
So you were more for in the corporate landscaping and contracts. Was that the idea? Get contracts?
Get the contract, yeah. Because, what you make at one time is all great and good, but hey, that money coming in every month, that's how you build wealth. That's how, and every month, I'd start immediately taking everything I had coming in each month that I could, over and above expenses, and start buying rental properties with it. Rental properties.
Were you like mowing, like every morning you'd line up the guys?
That's right, yeah. And it's like one time, when me and Robert Thompson built bought and built a gas station, Elko Express, up here at, at one time I was driving, I was over mowing a little old lady's yard, and he pulled up. He looked at me. He said, "Come here, man." I said, he said, "Man," he said, "What are you doing now?" He said, "What do you get for that yard?" I said, "Well, $20. And he said, "Why are you doing that? Why are you embarrassing yourself for doing that?" And I said, "Well, Robert," I said, "one of these days," I said, "let me tell you something. I might need that $20 to eat on." Mm-hmm. So I've been doing this little ladies for like 10 years. And I said, as long as she wants me to do it, I'll do it. I said, because I may not, I started here with a 68 Mustang with a Kmart folding lawnmower in it. And I said, I might be back to that again someday. So I don't forget nobody. I try to,
Was it hard getting rid of those things?
Let me tell you something. The day I sold that company, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
That I cried like a baby. I felt like I had been anally penetrated. I felt like, number one, I was sad, I was crying, and I felt...
Did you try to get out of it?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I've been there. How can I get back?
I got to the point where I had that check, millions or millions of dollars, and I told it, I was just that close to turning that baby up.
For people that don't know, you got an incredible amount of money. It was like...
Oh, yeah, we made a killing. We made a killing. Oh, yeah. I spent money like it was water. Yeah, I did. Now, I was cheap. I was really, really cheap in my own life. In my own life, I was cheap.
Yeah, you never were a big spender.
I'd buy water. I'd never eat lunch during the day. I came, but now, when I went to vacation and stuff like that, I would be as lavish as I could. And but no, we had a big time. Thank the Lord, we had a real big time. And I hated losing. I feel like I literally lost my manhood the day I sold that company.
Did you feel like? Did you feel like you were? Did you really feel like you just really lost everything, even though you had the money?
Yeah,
and that's when you realize it's...
Imagine crapping your entire organs out. That's how I felt.
And that probably wouldn't have mattered if you're 60 or 40. I don't guess.
It's not been a different world, no. It's like today, if we even lose one rental, it just like somebody just takes their fist and doubles me over,
You've always had a mind that was multiples. You know what I'm saying?
I always wanted to win.
And multiples.
And multiply. No matter how small of a deal it is, even if it's nickel, well, hey, guess what? Get 20 of them, you got $1.
If you was 20 years old today, what would you do? What would you get into?
Well, can't do that. Can't do landscaping and stuff like that. The interior plant industry, for all intents and purposes, has collapsed because of the economy. Mm-hmm. We used to do interior plants in Crystal restaurants. And if you remember Ruby Tuesdays, I don't know if you remember the advertisements. It was quiche and ferns. I was the fern. I spot every one of those places with ferns.
So you'd go in and spray them and water them and
clean them, and if they look bad, we pumped them out, put new ones in, but see, that industry is almost all totally
But what
gone.
would you do today?
Oh gosh, I don't know. If I had the capital, I would immediately start into rental properties. Probably it's like a lot of people have the foundation of rental properties, and so like you do too, foundation of it. A good solid. Hey, even if you can't rent, worst case scenario, you can sell it. You see, so you got money coming monthly, or if it goes in the crapper, you can at least sell it, and eat. Okay?
Is that a multiplier too?
That's a multiplier.
But it doesn't multiply as much as a small service industry might.
So service industries now, for all intents and purposes, even though they may not be totally dead, they are dying. It's like, I was talking about getting a franchise for, what was it the other day, dear?
Blaze Pizza.
Oh, but we love Blaze Pizza. If you've never eaten it at Knoxville, best thing. You walk in there, it's like pizza and salad in a Subway. You walk, I want that, want more of that. Anyway, great. And but it's very affordable, money maker. But it relies on people. It relies on human beings. And I said, I just didn't put a gun in my mouth as you ever open a service-oriented industry. It's a dying thing until they can get the AI up enough to go ahead and start running these restaurants.
So 30 years ago, your advice would be get into some kind of a service industry.
Oh, back 34 years ago.
And now it's not because of the people.
It's
because
all
you can't
because
get
of
people.
You can't get the help, and they're not. And I don't think unless there's a huge, horrible war or a famine that occurs, I think the American population has softened up.
I believe that's too.
The kids are living at home nowadays. They're 25 and 30, and it's like, and people feel, what's the term I'm looking for here? That you owe them.
Entitled.
They feel entitled from even good, well-off children from nice homes. They feel entitled, and even white trash, I might say, they feel entitled because they can get almost anything, and they're getting the food stamps, they're getting the SNAP, they're getting housing vouchers, they're getting electricity paid for, and my mother was head of Department for Human Services. She was the longest working director of the Department of Human Services Tennessee ever had. It's like 46 years. She was decorated by 2 different governors, one of which Red Blanton, before he went to prison. Yeah. And she would say, Stevie, because she started back in the 1930s, and she'd say, you see that family right there? And you'd see like an old woman in a wheelchair, like a 65-year-old woman behind her pushing her. You'd see younger, down to like a 15-year-old girl carrying a baby. She said, the old woman started in the 30s, and every one of them was on it from cradle to grave, from the day they're born. And she said they even get money from the government when they die to bury them with. And she said everything they eat, sleep, breathe, touch, everything is cared for by the government. And she said, why should they? Why should they get out and go? It's like you feed the cat on the back porch, gets a stray. He gonna be our next morning, ain't he?
That one is a stray.
There you go. He's gonna be our next day. They're smart enough to know that, And I've seen so many people I've tried to get to work. From the homeless beggar on the side of the road, to people, they'll want a job, and the first thing they do when they come apply a job, they say, well, okay, when's our break, or when's lunch, and we get weekends off, and all days, right? The second somebody said that to me, I said, well, I can't use you. If that's all you're thinking about, you first sit down with me, I can't use you.
But you've got a really brilliant mind.
Well, I don't know about that.
I know it. And if you're 25 years old and you have no money, what would you get into to make a lot of money?
Well, I really couldn't tell you just
Well, think about it for a minute.
Well, see, I'm not, I have no savvy on the internet. I still carry this old 20-something-year-old flip phone right there, You
got the last one in the world, probably.
Well, no, I don't.
But what would you do?
I know a lot
what would you do?
I really couldn't tell you right now.
Think about it.
No.
Think about it. What would you do?
I always look for something very, very cheap or almost no cost to go into, something that was long-term that people always felt that they were going to need. You know what I mean? And also something that could be done almost solely by me or just a few others. So I'd have to find something.
So cheap to get into, something everybody's going to need for a long time.
And something that can be done by
by
myself
one,
and very few other people.
or maybe a nephew or a niece or
That's
something.
close to the vest like
yeah.
that. Yeah. And again, if the formula works for whatever you apply it to, then you start multiplying the formula in different towns and cities and everywhere
Boy,
else.
that's so bright and smart, isn't it?
What would
But,
you change education-wise? Would you still have gone to
Vet school?
Vet school?
I probably would have had, because mom was, every person in my family, back to the Mayflower, had a college education. Okay? Now, I never did doodly squat with mine, but I had it. And it does get, in college education and a degree and a doctorate and all this, gives you a certain amount of, what is it, savoir faire, if I might say so, a certain amount of swagger.
Yeah.
That, you know, I mean, you've seen me, I dress usually like garbage. I drive a garbage car most of the time. You know, and if I didn't have that
But you
education,
keep
a
good
lot
company.
Yeah.
and a lot of times I would feel demeaned. You know what I mean? I would feel like I am not good enough. But inside, I know what I am, know what I can accomplish, know what the talents the good Lord's given me. And that education has allowed me to be, you know, I've seen people before that, you know, they look good, but their vocabulary was so sucky, you already knew that they didn't have a whole lot going for them. You know what I mean? If nothing more, a person who can produce a decent vocabulary, it's worth the college education right there. You know? And, no,
So
that's
a
a
little-
very
a little-
good question you asked me.
I mean, that's I've always, now, why don't we do that today? We're too old? Already there?
Well, you know what I was asking her the other day, they're making this new Ace Hardware, you know, over there in Ocoee.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, if you want a job at Ace Hardware. I said, Meg, I said, check on that for me. I said, and she said, you're kidding. I said, no, I've never held a job. I said, I never held a job. One time we had to buy, for Peyton Southeastern out there, I was running about 3 shifts out there for everybody. And we had to buy, what are these things where you stick the ticket in them? Time clock.
Time clocks, yeah.
And they said, you have to have that. You'll have to use that. I said, what is that?
Yeah.
He said, you don't know? He said, I didn't see how you use it. I said, what's its purpose?
Yeah.
It's so that when people come in, they come, and he said, you know the time that they're in, and you know the time that they leave, if they are on a break or whatever. And I thought that was the saddest thing. It represented my time. I didn't have to use it. I was but you know, your time, you're selling your time. But I've never held a job, and I thought, well, I could be the old guy that sits up front with a red vest and tell me all the screws are out on aisle 6.
You'd be wanting to redesign the interior within 10 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah. But no, I've been thinking about other businesses, to be quite honest with you, but I just hadn't really focused on anything that I feel would be practical at this time of life.
Do you think that would give us a get up and go? Like
I've got to get up and go, but sometimes you'll get to the point where I have a lot of times, I don't want to go no more. I want to still produce. I still want to hit it and get it. But when you get enough rentals, how many rentals you got, Dave?
210, 220. I'd have to count them.
Well, you know how it is. Well, you got a property manager, right?
Yeah.
Well, see, we basically do that ourselves, because every time we get a property manager, he drops the ball or he steals something from a customer or grabs a girl on the bottom, that type of deal. So we basically field a lot of those calls and stuff ourselves. Yeah. And that right there, pretty much at the end of the day,
That'll take up 5 hours anyway.
We have been toying with the idea, though, of not as a money maker, obviously, but of starting an animal shelter in Polk County, because we have none in Polk County.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about that.
Yeah.
I ran that rescue and sanctuary in the Midwest, and I've done a lot of fundraising, and of course you've done businesses and all, and we thought that would be a really great humanitarian thing.
You could really use your mind and her knowledge and come up with something that'd probably do it again.
Yep. And it's just that, and
it'd be from an angle nobody quite thought of yet.
But there again, see, I've this mindset's is coming into me, maybe it is old age, that you've only got so much more time left. I mean, I mark my life by days at a time now. You know, I really do. I mean, as far as I know, other than my hip shot, thank the Lord I'm healthy. But I've enjoyed life so well. And it was just like a pig on dope, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had a good life. I had a good time, you know. And I only know I've got so much more left. And do I want to spend it making more and more money? And you know, it's a great thing to do, and it's a great thing to do. But there's so many places I haven't seen because of all the work I've done, because of the life I sacrificed earlier in my younger days. And now, when I go somewhere to do something, I'm encumbered because I'm older.
Can you mesh the two?
Oh, I'm
Wanting
sure.
to travel and holding the business, or does his personality not allow
lies the
that?
rub. Yes,
There's the rub.
You certainly can, if you can find managers underneath you that can handle a lot of the burden, or at least direct information to customers and stuff like that. If you got that to depend on, yes, you can.
And now you got to look at their age, and when they're going to hit that point.
That's right. You know, I got to where I was so hard in my business that, you know, I remember one time, I don't know if you ever had one of these things or not, it looked like my cell phone, but you push the button and you just could speak into it, and and it would record what you. I said, okay, I got to put 4 plants on.
Oh, I did
yonder,
that. Come home at night and write it down.
And I had 350 contracts. Okay, well, I got where I'd write it on a pad. Well, I can tell you how many times I'd lose that pad. So I got this thing here. I thought it'd be better, you know, and I dropped it in a freaking pool. Okay, blew it out. I dove in that pool, got that thing back out now. So I developed a talent that I could remember 350 contracts. I could figure every little detail of an extra charge that went into each one of those without writing it down or memorizing or having a mechanism by which to remind me, because I'd lost them. When you lost it, you lost the money with it, okay? But, I mean, we may have one sprinkler replaced at Bradley Memorial on the backhand side. I remember that. And, you know, so and it takes a lot of your energy to keep up with that stuff. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and a lot of a new contract or a new build, I'm sure it never leaves your mind, does it? Never. It's always saying, or knowing you the way I know you, you know, it may be all settled and you got to think, hey, I got a better way of doing that. Or I can do this to look better.
Yeah.
Or the customer will appreciate this more. Or I can make more money out of this. It's just like 4 to 5 different people yapping at you inside your head.
They're
all the
like
time.
this, looking at
That's
me.
right. That's right.
And I don't know if that can stop.
No, I don't think it. I think even if you apply that to what I've done, like say me and Harold go, we went up here back to the Hermitage, that big nice hotel up in National Hermitage, and they had what was it? Thanksgiving buffet, whatever it was. Thanksgiving buffet there. But even then, I'd be sitting waiting for the buffet, and I would be one side of my mind would be looking at the buffet line. Okay. And over here's where the sitting area, and I'd be thinking, okay, I need to hit this part of the buffet here. I'll get this, then I'll shoot over yonder because it looks like they're getting low over here. And I made like a war plan, like a battle plan of how to get that. Okay, then we're gonna get back up the room, we're gonna do whatever, then we're gonna shoot down, blah, 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 and almost to the same intensity of something I was making money. You know what I mean?
So why
It's still there.
Why fight that?
Well, you don't have to
Why
fight
cure it?
You don't have to fight it as long as it's not tormenting you. Therein lies a lot
That's
of
it.
emotional
If
problems.
it's tormenting you.
Yeah.
If it's tormenting,
If it
but
gives
it's like
you-
the person
if
you
it
said
gives
earlier,
you great
knocking on the
satisfaction.
door. Okay, it's always good. Somebody knocking on the door. And of course, we know what.
Yeah.
That's cop knock.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway,
Yeah.
you know, so knocking on the door. It's always good to err on the side of caution. But every time you hear it's good to look through the peephole. Okay, if somebody knocks on your door. However, if you're sitting in your home, oh God, who is it? Is some of my kinfolk dead? Is it the law gonna arrest me? Is it an axe murder? That's when it becomes bad. It's harming your life. It's okay to be excited. You can also look at it in a different way. Hey, you know, it might be that old guy from Publisher's damn clearinghouse.
Yeah,
Out there.
Yeah.
And I didn't go up and answer it.
Yeah.
There goes that $1 million
could go-
check down on Coy Street. You know, or it could be, you know, the prettiest woman in the world there. Just she had a flat tire out front. Boy, I miss, you know. And so it's a perception and the control of it. To perceive it in a way that hopefully makes you feel good, and to contain it where it doesn't. It's like a small fire. As long as you can keep it contained, hey, it serves our purposes. We roast our wieners on it, and, you know, or do what, or burn our refuse on it. But if it gets out of control,
Right.
then it burns the house down and kills people.
But
But
if me and you were born if we were married to somebody that was like us, we'd just work ourselves into the grave and it'd be all over. And you wouldn't go to the Hermitages, you wouldn't go to the buffet,
Yeah.
you wouldn't eat the chicken, you wouldn't eat the meatloaf.
well, now she don't make me do these things. I pull her along.
That's what I'm
she'd
saying.
sit down.
Eventually, somebody's going to say,
Yeah.
If I like this or
you know
not.
where I found her at?
yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Where do you think I found her at? Okay, you know me. You know where I come from. You know a lot of the women I've had. Okay, so
You've always had smart women.
and I've always hopefully had good looking.
You're good looking
There
too,
you
yeah.
go. There's one thing I do try to hang
yeah.
on to, even in my older
Yeah,
days.
it probably wasn't your smile.
Where do you think I fit? No, my teeth. I got that tetracycline. You know. Anyway, but where do you think I fetched her at?
I had no idea.
You don't tell him. You tell him.
An online dating site.
That's very
Millionaire
popular.
match. But I
But
didn't
see, wait a minute.
realize
I
because
can't.
he's
I
got a
don't have any
flip phone.
computer savvy.
I
can't.
was the entire time dealing with his assistant at the time, Mark.
Yeah, my houseman Baruch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would do it, and she fell in love with Baruch.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
I had no idea that you wouldn't have the phone.
He'd bring me his phone. He'd show his picture of him.
So
with
you
his
stole-
laugh, we'd
you
say,
stole-
she's a pro. She's a pro. Nobody's a doctor and looks that way. I said, that is, you know.
so you stole her from
I'm sorry.
him?
Oh no, he was doing that at my behest.
Oh, I see.
Because I could
yeah,
work
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And I
see.
pretty much
Oh,
run,
I see.
I pretty much run
Yeah.
through the area over here.
Like
Either
on
have-
like on Seinfeld when Newman was telling Kramer the poems to give. Remember that? Or
No, I
vice
never
versa.
watched it.
Vice versa.
Yeah, I never watched TV. I was
Yeah,
working.
yeah.
Yeah. Or something else I missed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, she fell in love with him, and it came to the thing that she's going to come out and visit.
Well, I fell in love with what I thought was
Sure,
Steve.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he just was
Yeah.
Steve's
He was the
mouthpiece.
tech. He was the
tech
fingers.
wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? Speak for yourself, John. That old adage. Remember? Around the literature, John, what was it, John Amish or something like that? He had a woman speak for Priscilla. Mm-hmm. Remember that in Pilgrim Days?
Oh yeah.
And but no, she came out here and everything went really, really well. And so we ended up shipping her horses out here and whole 9 yards.
You got the horses at your place? How
Yeah.
many?
Just 2 now. One died, bless his heart. And unfortunately, we do have our cats. Cats outlive horses.
That's where me and Alvin ride bikes through there. We call it the Chestnut Loop.
Yeah,
He'll say you want to.
Yeah,
He'll say you want. Well, you can go up to, behind Hatchers and
yeah.
by the courthouse, and because that adds about 9 miles, and
Does it?
woods. So on some Saturdays, if it's warm enough, he'll say you want to do. He'll say, do we have time for the Chestnut Loop? That's what we call it.
Yeah.
Well, you should stop.
Well, we have before.
Oh, yeah,
Remember,
I have,
we
but you always stop every time.
we
Say,
came
"How's
in
it
there one
time?"
time and went in the house and wasn't nobody home.
Yeah,
We was in the garage and everything. I said, Alvin, he ain't here.
Yeah.
Always make yourselves at home.
Yeah, but no, she's been a real winner, and been here how many years, dear?
2.5.
2.5 years. So yeah.
Well, he is an absolute genius in my
Indeed.
mind. I mean,
Indeed
he
he is.
really is.
Yes,
He's
he is.
very
Yes, he is.
extremely underrated,
Yes.
and
Yes.
his mind's just, That's why I'm
Yeah,
saying
brilliant.
if you could bottle that or take that, I guess we'd take it all the time.
Well, do you remember Dan Cooper used to be the director of the hospital up here?
Yeah.
Okay, nice guy. But, well, you know, he got and all that big deal when they fired everybody out there at the hospital and redirected, right? And he really didn't want to go off to another hospital and do
He does
consulting
now.
So he started doing consulting. And basically
And
what he's
very
doing, he's
lucrative.
bottling that for other people.
Exactly.
Making a darn good killing out of it. And he tells me a thing, I thought it was a joke at first. He says it's not a joke. He said a hospital company built a modern hospital down in somewhere in Africa. Not South Africa, but Africa. The Congo or something. I don't remember. It was one of those really bad. And he was talking to the interpreter for the head of maintenance down there. And they said they had 20 big old boxes of this stuff, and they didn't know what it was. And he said, okay, well, describe it. And he described it. He said, I thought, well, it sounded like, paper rolls for the calculators. And anyway, he still couldn't figure it out. So he sent him a schematic. And he said, you know what it was, Steve? He said, toilet paper. He said they didn't know what toilet paper was. They'd never seen it, never used it, didn't know what the heck it was. He said they'd all been using it for note paper, and he said they said that note paper wasn't worth a shit. You know what I mean? And but yeah,
It was worth a shit.
yeah,
Wasn't it?
but that's bottling it. That's bottling it. Yeah. And but Meg, she's here. She come and met me 3 days, and after 3 days, got her a tattoo with my name on it. That was always one of my requirements in life, to have a Stevie tattoo, you know. So bless her
I.E.
heart.
or Y?
Stevie. Stevie's law.
I.E.
Stevie,
Yeah.
yes.
And of course, when they do that, you think, ooh, they're really crazy. that they would literally listen to me and do that. Because I have no tattoos.
Champagne later that I actually did it.
Yeah. And,
Was your parents from Cleveland?
yes, my father was from Cleveland and my mama was from Etowah.
What was your dad's name? What did he do?
Clyde Morgan, and he was basically a carpenter. And my mother, her father was Dud White, and he was a sheriff of McMinn County many years ago, back when they had the at the War of Athens.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, he was just mentioning.
There's a book about that. Yeah.
Yes.
Boyd, Tyler Boyd, yeah.
Have you seen a new book came out about Polk County?
Well, I had him here, Tyler Boyd, and he was
they call the Biggs Machine.
the Biggs Machine, yeah.
him and-
That was interesting.
Yeah, he
And
mentioned
real.
in there Big Dud White, and
Yeah.
he was basically a
Yeah.
hitman for Beefy Biggs.
Yeah.
The sheriff.
He's coming out with another one.
Yeah, he is. I'd like to see what he's got now. I told him that if he needed any insider information, because I knew all about all of
Yeah.
it. We always have for years.
How long have you been in Polk County?
All my life. Yeah, all my life. I was born right there on Stump Street, then moved half a mile away, built my first big log house, and then after that I moved into the
Did you
big
go to
house.
Polk County High School or
I sure
grammar
did.
school?
Yeah, class of 78. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yep.
I just thought you just moved out there.
No. Most people in right mind don't move out there. And Polk County is still just as corrupt as it was back in the old days. They just ain't as much bloodshed involved. You know what I mean? They basically use the
Paper,
cops and
yeah,
stuff to be the strong arm for the councils and the clerk of courts and all those others. They still do their crooked stuff, and the cops work with them to cover that up. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. It's okay to broadcast this because they're not going to hate me any worse.
They might give me a ticket when I go through, but I know they will anyway. You ever eat GG's?
Yeah, I have.
Boy, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
They said they're closing January the 11th, I think.
Steve is a
good?
gourmet cook in addition to all of his
Oh
other
yeah,
jobs.
yeah. You had
he's
a restaurant,
amazing.
didn't you?
No, we used to do, when I first retired and built the big house, we did a brunch on Sundays because
Yeah,
I couldn't find
yeah,
a decent brunch
yeah.
anywhere outside of Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I started doing a brunch up there. Yeah. We had all you could eat, all you could drink champagne mimosas and.
Yeah, didn't So who was it rode the cart for you? The horse
Oh,
and
the
buggy.
horse-drawn cart,
Yeah,
that Lewis boy.
Yeah, Bebo.
Yeah,
He's a good guy, isn't he?
I don't think so. No, he didn't show up one time.
Oh, really?
We had a wedding, and and he just didn't show up. And and I found him down there at the Quick Mart after that, and I gave him what little time I
bet that wasn't
Then
very
by the time
pretty.
he flashed that badge, I said, "I'm your rat's ass." I said, "That just makes you a bigger target in my mind, But yeah, he always had good personality, but I think he was just, like kind of like Fred Flintstone,
Yeah, he probably just didn't understand the importance, I'm sure, right?
Well, he got paid
Yeah.
for it, so and when you're in business with people, it's a whole different world.
It's a whole nother world. It's a whole nother world.
It's like when you live with somebody, it's a whole different world, and when you do business with somebody, it's a world. You always see their dark underside,
Yeah.
Meg,
Meg, you're interested in doing any not psychiatry or maybe counseling? Can you do counseling?
Sure, but I'm really devoted right now to doing the equine assisted stuff. So I want to start that up again, and as I said, we're thinking about starting a shelter in Polk
I'll be
County.
more than happy to do counseling any given time, $45 for a half hour.
I'm supposed to build the SPCA here in Cleveland.
Okay, great. Yeah.
They're really working hard on
Where's he
that.
going? It's going to be on Dalton Pike? Or?
Maybe off of Industrial Drive.
That's right.
Yeah. That's a really good thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Animals.
See, Polk County has nothing. So if there's an animal or a herd...
So they don't even have a dog pound.
No.
Boy, they need something.
No.
That is so important.
Yeah, they won't have one. They won't have, unless it's totally given by
I can't
charity.
stand to see dogs. I was riding through I was coming through from the courthouse, coming towards Baker Bridge,
Yeah.
and there was a dog out licking the bowl that was dry. I just can't stand that.
I know.
I just can't stand it.
I used to be president of the Humane Society here in town many, many years ago, and I got to that point where I was going to end up going to jail. I was going to kill
You just
somebody.
can't. You got to get away from
and
it.
see, one thing you can't teach people, there's one thing, what can you not teach people? One thing you can't teach people, you can't teach anybody to care. Care comes from within. You can't teach people to care, So if you might go, well, you shouldn't do that, blah, blah. Well, they think you're yap, 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 and it makes no difference. You can't teach people to care.
Care is the main thing. If they don't care, it doesn't matter.
That's right. They're an empty vessel and of no need to be on this earth.
How many acres you got there?
I think, what is it, 16?
13.
13.
How many would you start the shelter there?
I don't know. I would probably do it off-site. We'd
Yeah.
probably do it on a different site. We'd have to scout it out.
If you could get somewhere between Bradley County and Polk County, like on the line, wouldn't that be good?
64 there, that land is on 64 right before you drop down to the Benton Bank on 64.
Yep.
What's her name? Sherry Brown had been talking to her about.
On the right, as you're going towards Benton?
No, 64. Right before you get to 411, you drop off that big hill,
yeah.
right on the right.
Okay, yeah.
So, Sherry Brown had been talking to her about. She was going to try to buy it, but she never did. So I don't know where that plan went. So I don't know about that.
Well, that would be a good place, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you could just say, hey, take that poor animal there and.
There should be a law that every municipality.
I thought it was.
Yeah, and another thing, all those issues that we have with the unwanted animals, everybody's always hard to spay and neuter. That's great, but you know what? All you have to do is pass a law that you have to. But see, they won't do that. See, the governments hate regulating sex, even with a dog. They do. They just something about that they just don't think's right. If you have, you have to go in and get a license. See, people should have a license to have a baby. See? I mean, I have to have a license to drive. I have to have a license.
Why not have a license? Well, that's a smart thing, isn't it?
Yeah, have a license to have a baby. And make sure that you can, read a medicine label. make sure you can understand how you can do a little bit of cooking, make sure don't drop him on his head, and just.
Well, that's not a bad, I've never thought of that.
Yeah. Sally at night just processing stuff. Okay, right there. And, but they'll never do it because, again, government hates regulating sex of any
But
kind.
boy, if they did, look at what that would change.
Oh, it changed the world, just with the animals and with that. It would change the world,
I never thought of that.
Yeah, you have to have a license out the ass.
Oh, I got to have a license to have a license.
Yeah, yeah. I know it. And like I said, I got an Atoxa lock in the truck. Have you ever had that?
What's
you
that?
have to blow to go.
Oh, no, yeah, no.
In the truck.
Yeah.
He wasn't accused of drunk driving, he just refused
No,
to
I
take
just
the
refused to
test.
think.
Okay.
I was always told
You've
Jimmy,
never been a big drinker?
No, it's just that if I ever do drink, I always chose to drink and drive. Hey, if you can't drive, why drink?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that badly.
Yeah.
But I, the point was I didn't want to take the. Jim Logan always said, "Don't you ever take a test? Don't ever submit to a search, and never take a test of any kind without right there sitting with your lawyer." So I said no. And it's one of the stupidest laws, that implied consent law. Well, you know how it is.
Oh, yeah, we had him both working on one of our cases at one time, when me speeding or whatever, crazy, not even speeding.
But
going 37 through Calhoun.
Yeah, but you know what the implied consent law is, don't you?
I'm oblivious to that.
But you need to know. Okay, let's say, I'm driving down the road. I'm sober as a judge, okay? But I know my constitutional rights, and, my lawyers told me never submit a test. They pull you over and said, look here, have you been drinking? No, sir, I have not. Well, then you won't mind to get out here and take this test. No, sir, I won't take tests. I don't submit to any tests without my lawyer present. Bam, wham! At that second, you've lost your license for a year. And you have to have an Atoxa law.
Now, how is that fair?
It is not. But in the state of Tennessee is one. I don't know if it's how many other states, but they're real big in that. And I've lost it twice that way, simply because I wouldn't take the test.
Just didn't want to bow down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And lost it for a year. Had to get an Atoxa lot. Had to get that special $400 a month insurance. All simply because of that. And they can't beat it. Your lawyer, once it goes in, it's already in play. You can't beat it.
Somebody ought to change that rule, because if you're not,
It's not in every state, but in Tennessee.
Yeah, it's Tennessee.
Tennessee's real lax in a lot of laws and real hard in others. It's crazy.
Real harsh and stupid ones and lax in important ones, yeah.
How's Tennessee compared to where you're from? Wisconsin
Well,
or
up there you
Chicago?
bribe everybody. No, up here. Down here, if they don't like you, you're on the crap list. But up there, whether they like you or not, you can bribe your way out of it, which is the American way.
Yeah, the American way, that's right.
That's right.
Well, around here, you can wait till somebody else gets in office.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what that, yeah.
What part of Chicago was your main?
I grew up on the North Shore of Chicago, in the northern suburbs.
Would you consider yourself a psychiatrist,
Yes.
a doctor, or an animal enthusiast?
All those things. I'm a physician, I'm an MD, and my specialty is psychiatry, and I am definitely an animal enthusiast.
Well, I appreciate y'all
And she
coming.
got nice teeth, too.
She does. She's very pretty. Hey, I love you,
I
man.
love you, too, buddy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
We had a great time.
I've really enjoyed.
We had a great
You're
time.
one of the smartest people I've ever had here.
Oh, thank you for